Time to take Christianity apart piece by piece. So let's start off with the fact that we don't know who wrote any part of the Bible. The Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and of course Acts, which is another gospel part. It's offered by unknown people. We don't know anything about who actually wrote these Gospels, right? Of course, the names Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, these are pen names. They're not actually historical people that we can trace and track and document, who had their own biographies to substantiate their names and their historical value and their historical perspectives. Right? These are just random names that were given to these Gospels for no legitimate reason. And of course, not just the Gospels, but the Old Testament, the Tanakh, like the Torah. We don't know, because the Old Testament is the Hebrew Bible, right? It's the Tanakh. We don't know who wrote or made any of it, right? All of those titles, those names are used as titles. They're just put there for no real reason. We can't correlate those names with actual historical people. And if you look at the manuscript evidence of the Bible, the manuscript evidence of the Bible is quite deficient. Right? Most of our manuscripts of the Bible, right? The Masoretic text, the Dead Sea Scrolls, they come hundreds of years after the people inside of the Bible, right? The biblical prophets, Moses, who was alive 15 BCE, the Torah, the oldest Torah, which is found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, and that's hundreds of years after Moses. There's no clear linkage between any of the manuscripts we have of the Bible to the people mentioned inside of the Bible. Right? It seems to me that it was all just kind of made up along the way, right? That's something that seems to be true, in my opinion, that a lot of the Bible was poorly gathered together over time, and it was without any real connection to the people that are found inside of the Bible, right? Of course, this is just from a historical perspective, Christianity is quite uninspiring. It's quite ridiculous, Christianity, because we don't have any manuscripts of the Bible that can be linked to any of the people mentioned inside of the Bible, right? Even the Gospels, they can't be dated exactly to the time of Jesus. There's still some gap between the oldest manuscripts of the Gospels, which date to the 2nd century, and a little bit later to the 12th century. The Jesus, of course, was alleged to be born somewhere around the beginning of the BC era mark. Of course, we don't know that for sure, of course, because who's to say Jesus was even real? Right? There's such poor documentation for Christianity, right? For the history of Christianity, for its people mentioned inside of the Bible, for the alleged authors. Literally, he's completely just in thin air. You know what's also more insane? The entire Bible was kind of canonized following the Council of Nicaea in a kind of arbitrary way. A lot of Gospels were thrown out for no legitimate reason. The Gospel of Thomas, many other Gospels, the Apocrypha, you can kind of Google and research about this yourself. They were just discarded for no reason, right? Of course, when I say the Bible, there's plenty of different versions of the Bible, right? With different numbers of books included, right? The Protestant Bible, who's to say that's the authoritative Bible? What about the Ethiopian Bible that has more books included, right? Or what about the Catholic Bible or various other versions of the Bible? The fact that there are so many versions of the Bible would heavily suggest that it's completely corrupt, right? It's not the truth. It's not real. It's not factual, right? Because if it was factual, they would all be corresponding in the same way, but they relate differently to various different aspects of Christian theology, right? And so that would suggest that Christianity as a religion has kind of been corrupted to a heavy degree. And if you go and look inside of the Bible, there are dozens of contradictions that can be pulled out in the Gospels of Jesus as different genealogies, according to either Luke or Matthew or some other gospel author. His lineage goes to different people. a lot of the accounts of Jesus' life, they relate differently, right? when Jesus was like kind of being resurrected from his tomb, like the amount of people that showed up, the different gospels, they give different amounts of people that showed up to his resurrection, and that's kind of bizarre. And the amount of angels that came when the stone was being pulled from his tomb is kind of, there was different numbers, different names, different people, depending on which gospel you read, and that should kind of give you a strong idea that these gospels were probably not, they were just probably made up later on after Jesus' life. If they were made by contemporary eyewitnesses, people that were seeing the same thing, they would be giving out the same information, but that's not what happens in the Gospels. The Gospels give out different accounts, different names, different people, again, different genealogies for Jesus, so that would heavily suggest that they're not actual, they're fabricated, they were made up later on after Jesus was alive. Now, of course, it was kind of the Old Testament, of course. Really, there's not a lot to say on the Old Testament. It's quite this is even more unreliable than the Gospels, because there's such a huge gap between the manuscripts of the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, and the biblical prophets, the people that were mentioned inside of those scriptures and text. We don't have any manuscript of the Torah that can be linked to Moses, right? The oldest manuscripts come hundreds of years after Moses, which would heavily suggest that they're not reliable. Of course, plenty of other ways to debunk Christianity. You can also look at, the various claims, falsifiable claims made in the Gospels. But for the most part, that would be it.